All right, today we're going to break down a pretty incredible personal declaration. It comes from a lone builder who says he's made a massive technological breakthrough. And get this, he did it all by himself. It's a story that's really about conviction, about privacy, and the very nature of trust in this new age of AI.
So let's just start with this one powerful statement. An immigrant rented his own server and did it. That's not just a sentence, that's a challenge. It's basically him saying that real innovation doesn't always need venture capital or huge teams or permission from Silicon Valley. It's one person's claim against the entire tech and finance establishment.
So, who is the person behind all this? His name is Abdul-Jabbar ibn Yusuf ibn Umar. And his story, well, it isn't about chasing the next crypto craze or building some viral app. It's about a very singular, almost obsessive quest he set for himself to achieve absolute 100% privacy. And this slide, it just lays out the David versus Goliath situation perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got a single immigrant, a rented server, and an idea. No VC money, no corporate backing. And on the other side, well, you've got the titans of tech and finance. It's this stark contrast that makes his whole claim so audacious.
Now, this is really the key to understanding his motivation. He says it right here. This was never about making another Bitcoin. His journey was just laser-focused on one single thing, 100% privacy. He wasn't trying to just make a better version of something that already existed. He felt like the core problem of digital trust hadn't really been solved at all.
Okay, so he's got this one goal, pure privacy. How does he even start to tackle that? Well, this gets us to the technical challenge he was obsessed with. And to really get his breakthrough, you have to understand the problem he was trying to solve. How do you build a system of record, a ledger, that can never, ever lie about its own past?
And you can see the stakes right here on this slide. Over on the left, that's the system we have now, right? Where our financial lives are pretty much locked down and controlled by huge institutions. But on the right, that's the future he's building for. A future where our own personal AIs are managing our lives. And for that to work, they need a foundation of absolute, unshakable trust. A ledger they can count on. He was basically arguing that the systems we have today, they're just not going to cut it. And really his entire project, all this work, it all boils down to answering this one single question. It wasn't about being the fastest or having the most features. It was about absolute, unchangeable integrity. Okay, so this is where the story gets really interesting. We're at the climax of his technical journey now, the moment it all clicked. This is where what looked like a total failure turned out to be the ultimate breakthrough, the thing that proved his system worked even better than he'd imagined. So let's walk through this, step by step. First, he builds the ledger, using something called an SHA-256 hash chain. Just think of it like a chain of digital dominoes, where every single one is cryptographically fused to the one before it. If you mess with one, the whole chain breaks. So, second, he runs a script to make sure the ledger is solid. But then, something weird happens. The system doesn't say pass or fail. It just stops, dead in its tracks. And your first thought is, oh no, it's broken, it failed. But then, the realization hits. And this is the big aha moment. The system wasn't broken at all. It was enforcing truth. It didn't crash. It just flat out refused to move forward because it found a single, tiny contradiction, one little attempt to change the past. That halt, that failure, was actually its most powerful feature. It was the ultimate proof that the ledger could not be forced to tell a lie.
Now, I know when a lot of people hear SHA-256, their brain probably jumps straight to Bitcoin, right? So how is this any different? Well, this is where we really get into his unique contribution and why he thinks the implications of this go way, way beyond just digital money.
Just look at this table, it makes the difference crystal clear. Check out that first row. Satoshi Nakamoto, the genius behind Bitcoin, connected the SH256 hash to money. But Abdul-Jabbar, he connected that same powerful technology to something way more personal, our individual receipts. See, the goal wasn't another decentralized currency. It was something he calls sovereign economic memory, a personal, private financial history that's built for the coming age of AI.
So what does sovereign economic memory actually mean for you and me? Well, it means you own the unchangeable record of your entire economic life. It means your receipts, your proof of every transaction, they basically become your own personal bank. This is the data your future AI assistant will use to manage your life, and it'll never have to ask a big corporation for permission. It's really about you owning your own economic story.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second, because this unbreakable ledger,
as cool as it is, isn't the final product, not even close. He's very clear that this is just one foundational piece of a much, much bigger system he's been designing, like a blueprint for a whole new kind of digital civilization.
The first big piece of this new architecture is an economic model he calls the Brand Currency System, or BCS. The core idea is to just completely flip the current model on its head. Instead of big platforms sucking up all your data for their own profit, this system is designed so that your economic history, your receipts, becomes an asset that you own and you control, giving you the leverage.
And then there's the second piece, the super user system. Now, this is a whole new take on governance. Just imagine a social or economic system where your influence isn't about how much money you have or how popular you are. Instead, an impartial AI figures out who is actually creating real, measurable, positive value. In this world, you earn influence through your contributions. You can't just buy it.
And this quote just hammers it home, right? This wasn't some happy accident or a one-time flash of genius. The ledger was a necessary brick for these other, much larger systems he's building.
All right, this is where we get to the real heart of it all, the why behind the what. He frames it around two ideas, precedent and prayer. For him, the story of how this got built is just as important as the technology itself. It's not about ego, it's about setting a new example.
So what's the signal he's trying to send with this story? It's a really powerful one. It's a message that says, hey, you don't need permission to create something incredible. That game-changing innovation can happen anywhere, not just in Silicon Valley. That an immigrant can be a systems architect. And maybe most importantly, that real digital privacy is not a lost cause. It is possible.
And he's very open about the spiritual side of all this. He says, look, this discovery didn't come from a place of arrogance. It came from dua, which is the Arabic word for prayer or supplication. He frames this whole breakthrough as the answer to a deep, sincere quest for a solution. And at the end of the day, this is his hope for how this whole contribution will be seen, not just as a piece of code or a clever algorithm, but as a project that was built on a foundation of principle and sincerity and gratitude.
And so, his whole story leaves us with a really provocative question for our time, doesn't it? In an age that's so dominated by huge corporations and AI labs with billions of dollars in funding, can a truly game-changing innovation still come from just one person, armed with nothing more than conviction and a rented server? His story seems to suggest that the answer might just be yes.